Today on the podcast, I speak with Dr. Cheryl Marsland about her doctoral thesis about investigating multidimensional determinants of negative nutrition coping strategies and trade-offs in adults accessing food relief. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Marsland. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about the coping mechanisms and trade-offs that people use when they don't have enough food?
So when I think about negative nutrition coping strategies, some of the ones that we looked at were eating food past the expiration date, maybe a person pawning or selling personal property, purchasing food in dented or damaged packages, buying inexpensive and unhealthy food. So maybe you've done that before, where you're doing 5 for 5 and trying to buy as much food as you can and maybe get a couple of meals out of it. Watering down food and drinks. We know that some people will water down their milk and their juice to make sure that they have enough for their children. Maybe eating less, so children or the elderly in their family have enough food to eat, trading off medicine and utilities and even transportation, trading off education, right? Sometimes maybe you can't afford to go to school because you're prioritizing food to eat. And so some of this coping strategies can affect people's nutritional status negatively, either undernutrition. So sometimes we think with food insecurity that people are skinny and emaciated, but oftentimes overnutrition, obesity, and chronic disease risk are very much associated with food insecurity because they're buying very poor quality food. They can't buy fruits and vegetables. Those are more expensive oftentimes. So cheap, refined carbohydrates full of lots of sugar and fat can lead to obesity and their chronic disease risk, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, all of those things that go along with chronic diseases.
Yeah, you normally think of people with food insecurity as not having enough food, but they may have too much of the inappropriate food.
Some of these coping strategies, they just become part of their normal routine. So by identifying the different types of negative nutrition coping strategies and trade-offs, then we can help create positive coping strategies and reduce the number of trade-offs so that it doesn't impact their health and wellness.
That's very interesting. Did you look into how you change that negative into a positive?
Because people always ask why study food insecurity, right? So the health of a nation's population has a lot to do with its economic viability. If you have a healthy population, you have a healthy economy. People can work. But if you're chronically sick and you can't afford your medication or transportation, then how can people work? So it's not kind of that, picture of a person is lazy. Oftentimes we find that these people are the most industrious people, and they're really juggling living in households with 5 to 10 people and supporting each other and trying to help the elderly and the children and stretching the dollar, and they work well on budget. So it's not that typical person that you think is getting maybe a handout.
We've been using the same methods for years, but the rate stays the same. How do you propose we change that?
Part of our goal with the research is to inform practice. So when I think about people working with these different groups, so maybe the worriers, we help them understand where they could get food access regularly. Each month you can come to this place, or this is a list of food relief agencies that are going to always be there. Maybe for the traders, we help them get involved in maybe not-for-profit programs or improve their access to resources to reduce the financial trade-offs. For them, maybe making sure if there are pharmaceutical companies that have some relief, or even utility companies and things like that, can help them not trade off a thing. And also things like we help them with shopping and purchasing and cooking food and even storing food. And then even for the copers, maybe we're teaching them strategies like growing food or increasing their food supply through resources in the community.
How do you think understanding these coping strategies and trade-offs will inform future policy?
Oftentimes, people think that individuals aren't making a lot of choices and trade-offs that are impacting their ability to be functional part of the economic part of our society, but they really are. So it's not laying the problems and solutions on just the individual, but having this multidimensional layer of impact to meet people's basic needs for food.
What sort of resources are available for people using these coping strategies and trade-offs?
If you're experiencing this or maybe doing some of these things, thinking how the quality of your diet can be modified either for you or for someone else. And what can you do? Maybe you're involved in a community garden, making fruits and vegetables more available. That even though that seems like a small thing, many people can't afford fresh fruits and vegetables. And how easy would it be for all of us to, what they say is if every person planted one thing, right? If I plant one lemon tree, it probably feeds my whole block, right? So, we're really starting to look for how can we modify the poor quality of this diet and make nutritious food more accessible to everyone.
So it's kind of a coping strategy where one person can feed a lot of people with a simple action. Thank you, Dr. Marsland, for sharing all this great information with us today.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Food insecurity is a timely and multidimensional problem positioned at the crossroads between the right food and health. To learn more, or for more information on how to be part of the solution, and to learn about the root causes of hunger, visit feedingamerica.org.